everybody, welcome back to Fab Fertile TV. Today we are digging into stress. And yes, everyone experiences stress, and really it's not the idea of getting rid of it, because you can never really get rid of stress. It's just sort of being aware of the different types of stress. We're going to talk about those today. So there's structural stress, there's mental emotional stress, there is environmental stress, and then physiological stress. So let's start by talking about structural stress and what exactly that is and why that's important to consider if you are starting to prepare your body to have a baby.
Sure. So, structural stress is going to be different things like if you have old injuries, so sports injuries, maybe you were in a car accident, or, maybe you're just one of those people that's prone to feeling like your body's out of alignment. You wake up and you feel like you've pinched a nerve in your neck and you can't turn your neck. All of those physical or structural things that are causing you pain or discomfort are a stress. And so if you're constantly in pain or constantly in discomfort and you're not getting that checked, that's a source of stress that's constantly impacting your body. And we've talked about before in the first episode how stress impacts hormones. And so it's really important to look at all of the different types of stressors and see where you fit into each category and where you can make changes and improvements. And so with physical stress, that may be you go to physiotherapy, it may be you go to a chiropractor, it may be that you work with a really good exercise physiologist or a CHEK practitioner. CHEK is CHEK. Those people are trained in body mechanics, so they're going to watch you doing certain movements and see where there's imbalances and give you corrective exercises. So those are some things that are really important that a lot of people don't necessarily think about as something that may be important to look at that may have an impact on fertility and hormones.
Yeah, so to really check if you have neck issues or back issues or an old ankle or knee injury, to kind of look in that and to get that checked as part of this whole very holistic approach to healing and optimizing your body for a baby. And the next one we have is mental emotional. So we talk about this a lot with, in our couples coaching program, helping people shift mindset and being able to, first of all, it's just being aware of the thoughts that you're having every day. So 99% of the thoughts you have today, you'll have the same ones again tomorrow. And sort of, what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying like these horrendous things to yourself? And sort of becoming aware of these thoughts, because you are not that voice, which may sound a little strange to say, you are not that person saying those things to yourself. But it's, as we work through with people in our couples coaching program, we have that little inner critic that potentially is on our shoulders saying things to ourselves. So getting honest and get really honest about these stressors is extremely important, and working with someone on that, because a lot of times it'll come up and it's too painful for us. So we keep pushing it down, being able to bring that to the surface, with a trusted person and giving voice to that. And then that's when you start to begin to heal. And so it's extremely important. We've run mindfulness fertility groups with I co-facilitate the group with a therapist, and really we've had great success with people getting pregnant just with making mindset shifts alone. And this is a study from Alice Domar. So she's the pioneer of mind-body fertility, and really she's a Harvard researcher, and 55% of people in her groups went on to get pregnant within 6 months, and then 95% got pregnant within 2 years. So it's really making these shifts with visualization, with emotional freedom technique, which is what Brandy does. So tapping, with meditation, with mindfulness strategies, with affirmations, things like that. So all of these things are extremely important, but a lot of it is just being able to give voice to some of these thoughts and then being able to shift them.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. I found with work with EFT is that people have traumas that they don't feel like are valid. And so they look at the traumas that they have and they think, well, it's not as bad as it could be. So I'm not going to put credence into it. I'm not going to pay attention to it. But it is your trauma. And so, regardless of how bad you think it is or how not bad it was, it's still a trauma for you. And that trauma will like lay itself in your cells. I mean, you can have cellular trauma from your birth, you can have cellular trauma from when your mother was pregnant with you, from things that happened while she was pregnant. These are all valid things for you to really look at and not to be shameful about it and asking for help. There's so many different modalities out there, not just going to do talk therapy, doing coaching, doing EFT, mindfulness, hypnotherapy, EMDR. There's so many avenues out there. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid, because it's going to have a massive impact on how you feel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so then the next one we have is environmental toxins. So we talk a lot about switching out your personal care, switching out your cleaning chemicals, your water, all of these things. We're in the middle of a huge food experiment right now where, the majority of our crops are sprayed with glyphosate, which is a herbicide linked to infertility and a whole host of other diseases. So, switching to organic and really making the switch away from these chemicals. I think the average woman, there's all kinds of stats on this, but the one I just heard the other day was the average woman walks out of the house with 107 chemicals on her skin. And the
Yes.
skin is like, we're absorbing all of that into our body, and studies prove that it impacts your fertility. So we always have our couples switch over to natural cleaning chemicals, natural cleaning products, as well as their personal care. And it's not to take everything and throw it all in the garbage at once, is to gradually, as things finish, then you would then replace it with a natural option.
Yeah, and this piece is really important. I mean, we don't want you to get completely overwhelmed, and you can't be perfect. It's impossible. In the day and age that we live in, we have chemicals coming at us constantly. We can't avoid them, but definitely feeling empowered and doing the best you can is going to have a big impact. And just kind of following up on that stat that you said with the chemicals in women, one of the things that is really appalling in North America is the laws on chemicals allowed in beauty products have not changed since the 1920s. And the European Union bans over 1,500 different chemicals. The US has a small handful, maybe 30, and Canada's not much better, 200.
Mm-hmm.
That's very sad. So it's really, really important for you to do your own research. You can't rely on all of the labels because it's not regulated. The government isn't looking at these things. There's a lot of known carcinogens, especially in beauty products. And so if I could urge anybody to start anywhere, really look at your beauty products. We really like the Environmental Working Group Skin Deep website. That's really helpful. You could download it on your phone, take the app, scan things when you're at the store. It'll give you a rating, and you're able to kind of, instead of this, buy this. So little by little. And Sarah, I think you have some resources on your site too for information on different ideas for different types of products. It's a massive topic. And like I said, don't feel like you have to be perfect, but slowly but surely start working on it, and just kind of have that in the back of your mind as something that should be a priority.
Absolutely, and that goes along with the foods as well. So switching to organic, but if that's too much for you, then you can do the Dirty Dozen. Make sure that those are at least organic, and that's on the Environmental Working Group, so ewg.org. Also, another good one is Think Dirty, and that one will help you figure out which ones are the best ones to get. And you want to make sure it's you're choosing organic and non-GMO.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the next stressor we have is physiological, which really includes gut infections. We just talked about a stool test on our previous episode, a couple episodes before, and then also food sensitivities, which we've talked about. And so those are the two main. Is there anything else in there with physiological?
Blood sugar. So
Blood sugar.
physiological, yeah, it's essentially things going on internally that you're not aware of. So like you said, blood sugar is a really, really big one. If your blood sugar is constantly going up and down all of the time and it's not stable, that's creating a stress. If you're eating foods that your body is sensitive to or is having any sort of reaction to, that's a constant stressor on the body. If you have gut infections that you're not aware of, I mean, I've had gut infections. I don't even know how long they've been there. I know that I had them. I could have had them since I was a kid. And a lot of times we don't even know that they're there. So it's all of these little things internally that you don't know are going on are another source of stress to consider. And so the approach that we take is not only do we coach you on the things you can control, like the structural stress, the mental emotional stress, the environmental stress, but then we use the lab work to look internally and see if we can find some stressors that maybe we're not aware of. And those are some areas where we can make lifestyle changes to make improvements on those internal stressors.
Yeah, definitely check out, there's a blog that we've written on Fab Fertile, so fabfertile.com, and just search blood sugar. And there's probably about 10 different strategies on how to balance your blood sugar. So definitely check that out. And then obviously the stool test, you can check out the episode on Fab Fertile TV about the GI map stool test that we talk about, and the importance of really looking at your gut health and looking if there is a parasite, a pathogen, a fungal infection going on. And then the food sensitivities, we talk about that on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, as well as on Fab Fertile TV. So really go back and dig into the food sensitivities, and really at a minimum, start an elimination diet, take out the top allergens, which are dairy, gluten, soy, corn, peanuts, eggs. Take those out for 10 days and then systematically reintroduce it. That's like the best place to start. If you have an autoimmune disease, we also recommend looking at the autoimmune protocol diet. So that's another good place to start. So typically with an infertility diagnosis, looking at diet is the last place people look at. They don't look at the stool test. They potentially could be looking at blood sugar imbalances, but all of these things do matter. We believe in it all, just not all at once. So these stressors, it's like it takes time to make changes on these, but as you like little steps every day amount to huge change.
Yeah, and I think that what you said there is key is it takes time. So really understanding that you need to be patient with yourself and patient with the process, but know that having patience and that time that it takes to make all of these changes is going to be well worth it. It's a really, really good investment in your health long term.
Absolutely. Great. So if you wanted to chat about, see how our process can help you prepare your body for a baby, definitely click on the link below to book your Supercharge Your Fertility Naturally Discovery call, and we can chat further with you then. So until next time.